What is better than virtue? The question alone sounds almost heretical to ancient ears. To the Stoics, those guardians of resilience, reason and righteousness, virtue was the highest good, the summum bonum, the apex of human potential, not wealth, not fame, not pleasure, not even health, only virtue. Character over comfort, principle over profit, integrity over indulgence. And yet here we are, thousands of years later, daring to ask, is there something better? We don't ask to dismiss virtue. We ask because we are human, forever questioning, forever curious. We ask because we are tired of shallow answers and are hungry for something real. To even pose this question is to walk in the footsteps of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "If at some point in your life you should come across anything better than justice, truth, self-control, courage, turn to it with all your heart and enjoy it to the full." He wasn't being sarcastic. He was challenging himself, daring himself to examine everything he believed. And after years of ruling an empire and ruling himself, he concluded, "If you find anything better, let me know. Until then, I will serve virtue." That's not a blind commitment, it's clarity, it's conviction. But let's follow Marcus's challenge. Let's see if there is anything better than virtue, not to replace it, but to deepen our understanding. What would be better than courage when you're afraid? What could surpass honesty when the world is drowning in lies? What might outshine compassion in a moment of cruelty? Could love be better than virtue? Could wisdom? Could grace? Could the quiet joy of presence, the kind that makes no claim to virtue at all? Before we answer, let's step back. Let's understand what the Stoics really meant by virtue. For them, virtue wasn't a medal. It wasn't about being a good person in a smug, moralistic way. It was about aligning your life with reason, nature, and service to others. It was a practice, a way of living that kept you rooted when storms came, humble when success knocked, and grounded when distractions beckoned. To be virtuous was to be free, not because nothing affected you, but because nothing could corrupt your judgment. Virtue was clarity in confusion, calm in chaos, and strength without violence. It wasn't about perfection, it was about striving. So now, ask again, what is better than virtue? And not in theory, in your life. When someone wrongs you, what do you reach for? When everything falls apart, what guides your next step? What do you hold when the world offers everything and nothing at the same time? Let's not run from this question, let's walk deeper into it. Before we continue, I want to share something important with you. We've seen that a large number of our viewers, perhaps even you, listen regularly, but haven't yet subscribed. If this message has resonated with you so far, if you find even a moment of stillness or clarity in these reflections, we kindly ask you to consider subscribing. This channel is not about noise, it's not about trends, it's about service. And I can promise you this, our small but committed team will continue doing everything we possibly can to bring you value every single week. Thoughtfully researched, carefully written, quietly powerful. All we ask in return is that you join us by subscribing and turn on notifications so you never miss your next moment of insight. Let's walk this path together. If virtue is the highest good, why do we so often stray from it? The answer is simple, because the world is loud, and virtue, for all its strength, is quiet. The world rewards noise. It showers attention on those who shout the loudest, who market themselves best, who bend truth just enough to gain advantage. It offers endless distractions dressed as pleasures, and temptations cloaked as opportunity. To live virtuously is to live deliberately, but we are pulled daily, hourly into a whirlwind of urgency and comparison. You open your phone to check the time. Moments later, you're knee-deep in envy, outrage, or pointless scrolling. You walk into work with clear intentions, only to be swept away by office politics, performance metrics, or the exhausting chase for approval. Seneca warned us, you act like mortals in all that you fear and like immortals in all that you desire. We waste time as though we'll live forever, chasing things that do not last and neglecting the very thing that does, our character. Virtue asks for presence, but the world screams for reaction, and in that tension we drift. We chase success, forgetting to define it. We seek comfort, ignoring whether it dulls our soul. We conform, not out of principle, but because resistance feels lonely. We act, not out of courage, but out of fear of being forgotten. And slowly, quietly, virtue is replaced, not by evil, but by indifference. You don't need to commit great wrongs to abandon virtue. You only need to stop paying attention. But here's the twist. The world doesn't actually oppose virtue, it just forgets to value it. No algorithm is built to prioritize wisdom. No billboard sells you integrity. No headline celebrates a quiet act of justice, patience, or humility. They don't generate clicks. And so, we forget. We forget that the Stoics, those ancient souls who lived without smartphones, stock markets, or social media, faced the same battle. Their distractions wore togas instead of suits, carried scrolls instead of screens, but the struggle was the same. To stay rooted in what matters, to remember the difference between value and cost, between popularity and goodness, between applause and self-respect, because the world will offer you everything but meaning, and virtue, true virtue, is meaning. So what is better than virtue? Maybe the better question is, what can protect us from being consumed by the world? And the answer might still be virtue, but not a rigid, cold ideal, not the virtue of guilt or pride, the virtue that whispers when no one else listens, the kind that draws you back to yourself, not to prove anything, but to remember who you are. Let's keep going. So far, we've wrestled with the question. We've acknowledged how modern life pulls us away from virtue. But let's not leave virtue as a concept in the clouds. Let's bring it to the ground, into action. What does virtue look like when lived? To the Stoics, virtue was not abstract. It was embodied through 4 cardinal traits: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. These weren't just ideals, they were tools. A moral compass carried through life's chaos. Start with wisdom, not knowledge, not cleverness, but the ability to see clearly and act rightly. Wisdom means asking, what's within my control, and focusing entirely on that. When someone insults you, wisdom reminds you their words are theirs, not yours. When circumstances change, wisdom tells you your response is your power. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Then comes courage, the capacity to do what is right, even when it's hard, even when you're afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's virtue walking through it. You see it when a worker speaks up against injustice, when a child stands up to a bully, when you choose to apologize first, even if your ego resists. Next is justice, often misunderstood. Not the justice of punishment, but the justice of fairness, of seeing others as equal parts of the whole. Marcus wrote, what injures the hive injures the bee. True justice sees no division, it listens before it judges, it speaks truth, even when silence is safer. It lifts others, even when they don't look like you, think like you, or agree with you. And finally, temperance. The restraint to say, enough, in pleasure, in ambition, in argument, in desire. Temperance is what keeps power from becoming corruption. It's what holds the reins of impulse. In a world screaming more, temperance whispers, what for? Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Temperance is the gatekeeper of that freedom. Now imagine a person who lives these 4 traits. Not perfectly, but consistently. They listen more than they speak. They choose actions aligned with principle. They don't need attention to feel secure. They don't need revenge to feel strong. Their happiness doesn't depend on others behaving well, it depends on them behaving well. That person becomes untouchable, because virtue, when practiced, becomes your shield, your anchor, your guide. You no longer chase approval, you embody integrity. You don't panic when plans change, you adapt with clarity. You don't crumble under pressure, you rise with presence. So again we ask, what is better than virtue? We still don't know, but now we've seen it, lived it, practiced it. And perhaps the answer is this. If anything is better than virtue, it must still begin with it. Let's press forward. It's easy to talk about virtue in calm times. It's easy to admire justice when everyone is being fair, to praise courage when there's no real fear, to champion temperance when temptation is nowhere near. But virtue, real virtue, reveals itself when life becomes hard, cruel, and uncertain. It's when someone betrays you, when a friend lets you down, when the promotion goes to someone else, when your health collapses, when a loved one leaves or dies. In those moments, the world tilts. You feel the heat of anger, the tremble of fear, the pull of bitterness. And now the question is no longer philosophical. Now it is visceral. Will I still act with virtue when virtue costs me something? Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The trials are not the enemy of virtue. They are its proving ground. Anyone can be kind when they are rested and adored. But can you be kind when you're exhausted, overlooked and hurt? Can you still be honest when a lie would be easier? Can you still show restraint when indulgence promises comfort? Can you stay just when everyone around you chooses revenge? These are the crucibles. These are the moments that define us. Because in the fire of adversity we meet our raw selves. Not the version we post, not the one we wish we were, but the real, unfiltered self. And that's where virtue either lives or dies. But here's what the Stoics discovered. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to remember. Marcus Aurelius would write to himself as if reminding a friend, "You are not harmed by the truth. You are only harmed if you abandon it." He was an emperor, yes, but he was also a man. A father, a soldier, a human being full of flaws. He too felt anger, he too felt grief, but he returned again and again to virtue. Because when everything is stripped away, it is the one thing you truly own. You don't own outcomes, you don't own others' opinions, you don't even own your body forever, but your character, that is yours, that is your masterpiece. So when you are tested, remember, this is the arena, this is the forge, this is where your ideals stop being words and start becoming actions. And in this struggle you may discover something extraordinary, that virtue, hard-earned, battle-tested, bloodied but unbroken, is not just good, it is beautiful, it is rare. And in the end, it may not need to be better than anything, it may just need to be yours. We have travelled far, from ancient pages to the silent tests of modern life. We've asked boldly, what is better than virtue? And maybe we are now ready to answer, not with arrogance, not with certainty, but with something deeper, experience. Let us begin where Marcus Aurelius left us. If you find anything better than justice, truth, self-control, courage, turn to it. So, what could that better be? Perhaps it's love, not as sentiment, but as action. Because love can lead us to virtue even when logic fails. It can soften judgment, restore the weary, and move us to acts that are not calculated, but surrendered. Or maybe it's forgiveness, the ability to let go of the past, not because someone deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Is that better than virtue? Or is it virtue fully matured? Perhaps the answer lies not in finding something better, but in becoming something more. You see, virtue is the root, but what you build on it, that's your legacy. Virtue is the compass, but your direction, your story, is what gives it life. And when you use virtue not to polish your ego, but to serve, truly serve others, something miraculous happens. You become goodness in motion. You become someone who lifts others without needing credit, who speaks truth when silence would be easier, who forgives because they understand the weight of resentment, who shows up quietly, consistently, courageously. You become the kind of person others look to and feel safer just by your presence, because you do not bend with trends. You do not collapse under pressure. You are steady, you are kind, you are strong without hardness. This is not about being better than others. It is about being better than your impulses, better than your past, better than your fears. That is what virtue aims for. And if anything is better than virtue, perhaps it is the life that flows from it. A life of compassion, a life of courage, a life of quiet integrity, a life of service, not spectacle. Not because you seek applause, but because it is who you have chosen to become. And in that becoming you discover something timeless, that virtue is not a destination, it is a path. And the path never ends. Each day you walk it, you change, not to prove but to contribute. And when your life ends, no one will remember how loud you were, they will remember how deeply you lived. So we end where we began, with a question. What is better than virtue? Only this, living it and passing it on. If this reflection moved you, if you found clarity, stillness or strength, support this journey of timeless wisdom. Subscribe to Ancient Wisdom today, turn on notifications, and most of all, carry this with you and walk the path.